After a rare week off, it's UFC Fight Night this Saturday. No Apex in Las Vegas for us. You're looking at Kansas City, where welterweights Ian Machado Garry and Carlos Prates will meet in the 5-round main event. It's the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. You can find it at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus. Hello, everybody. Welcome in to UFC Best Bets. Brett Okamoto here, alongside my good friend Ian Parker, who gives us all the gambling advice we so desperately need for this UFC cards. No card last week, Ian, so we're going to go back 2 weeks to Miami to see how we did before we head on to this UFC Fight Night card this weekend. How did we do in Miami at UFC 314?
Miami did not treat me very well, unfortunately. I mean, we started off great with the parlay. We hit our prop. And after that, Jandaroba treated us nicely. Krylov got sent to the Shadow Realm. We did hit Rodriguez, Yair, in over 1.5. Him winning by decision at +1 was good. Michael Chandler fell. Patty looked great. Diego Lopez just couldn't let it go. Too hesitant, conserving his energy, which let Volk win by decision. And the premium play, which usually does well, hurt us. Sean Woodson over 1.5. I thought he was up 2-0, and then he got finished. I thought it was an early stoppage. But all the judges had it Dan Ige up 2-0. So it looks like I would have lost it anyway. A much-needed week off. We're back. Let's go.
Yeah, that was a really fun card there in Miami. Not as much fun at the window, but that's all right. We'll get it done here in Kansas City, and we start with the main event. Ian Machado Garry, a small favorite over Carlos Prates. This is an interesting one, man, from every angle, including the gambling one. I actually feel like Machado Garry, you've been able to get him at a halfway decent price, especially at the +310 against Rakhmonov in his last fight. Here he is, a very small favorite over Carlos Prates, who has obviously looked tremendous. But let's be honest, the guys he has fought so far in the UFC, not up to the caliber of an Ian Machado Garry. So close line. Where are we going with this one?
Well, a couple things. If you like Ian Machado Garry, you're getting a fantastic line, so I appreciate you bringing that up. Number one, again, to your point, Rakhmonov, he's fighting a lot of the top guys. He's worked his way up. There's been a very high bar set, I think, for him climbing up the ladder. He's a very confident guy. He's well-rounded. And one thing I will talk about is that he's very smart. He doesn't put himself in bad positions. And when he does, he gets out of danger very, very quickly here. And he's going to need to do that against a guy in Carlos Prates. Look, Prates is exciting. He's a new shiny toy in the division. The team Fight Nerds is obviously between Bahayo, Rufi, John Silva, and now Prates are making waves throughout the UFC, and rightfully so. For me, Brett, this really feels like either a Prates knockout or an Ian Garry decision. And I'm going to lean towards the Ian Garry decision and take it a step further. I'm going to go over 2.5 rounds. I'm going to make it my premium play. Ian Garry is going to stay as far away from Prates as possible with calf kicks, use that jab, use that teep kick, and stay away from the hands and the knees of Prates. The other part, too, as good as Prates has been with knockouts, he's not rushing. He's very opportunistic. He doesn't force it, which I also think which is why he's so good, right? We talk about the power. It's fantastic. But he's never fought someone Ian Garry's level. He's never been in a 5-round main event. He hasn't gone past, I believe, the second round of his UFC tenure. And I know we joke around him smoking, 10 packs of cigarettes a day. That's got to mean something in a 5-round fight. So if I were to pick a side, I would go Garry. I think over 2.5 at that number, -160, is a very good value play. That's going to be my premium play. I just see Garry dragging this out into deep waters. And if he even gets a finish, wouldn't be till round 4 or 5.
Yeah, I really like that play, man. And it's what you mentioned earlier, is that this is a real test for Carlos Prates, not only because Ian Machado Garry is ranked higher, he's more experienced, but also because what you said early on, he does something very well, and that is not put himself in bad positions. So you're going with a guy, Carlos Prates, who loves to put guys in bad positions, put them against the wall, land that big shot. Ian Machado Garry just does not give you many opportunities to do that. So we will see. It wouldn't surprise me if this one went all 5 rounds. It's going to be an interesting one there in Kansas City. Let's move to the co-main event, which you do not have a best bet on, but we got to talk about our guy, Anthony Smith, of course. We love the guy. We work with him on a weekly basis here at UFC. We try to leave that bias off to the side when we're talking, of course, from a gambling perspective. This is going to be the final fight of his career. A little bit of a random one in terms of opponent. Even he said that. Zhang Ming Yang taking on Anthony Smith in his final walk to the octagon. Are you looking to play this one in any sense? Anthony Smith's last fight.
Yeah, look, Anthony's family, right? So we're all going to be rooting for him. I think it's pretty obvious. I do think stylistically, at this point in his career, this is a very funky matchup. as Zhang carries tremendous power, good durability, where Anthony, I believe, has the chance. Look, when he fought Petrino, everyone kind of counted him out, right? And he caught onto that guillotine. Zhang, we haven't seen him past the second round. We've seen him get hit. We've seen him knock people out. And unfortunately, Anthony's been dropped quite a few times in his last few fights. So where I am going to play this is I think whoever wins this, I think it gets done in under 2.5 rounds. I don't think Anthony's going to wrestle him and just lay on top for 3 rounds. I think Anthony's submission skills, if he gets in that position, can get a submission. However, on the other side of it, if Zhang does get the win, unfortunately, I think it would be by knockout. So under 2.5 will be in our parlay. Look, we wish Anthony the best of luck. Love him like a brother. He's family. He is the definition of Lionheart. He's going to go out there and give it his all. And, like I said, but from a betting perspective, with bias out, under 2.5 in the parlay is where I'm going to go.
All right, so that gets us through the main and co-main. Let's move to your best bets of the card. The first one is in the middleweight division. Iskram Aliskerov had that hiccup there against Robert Whittaker. That sure has not gotten Vegas off of how talented this man is. He is a minus 550 favorite over Andre Muniz, and you are going to go Aliskerov in the over here at minus 105.
Yeah, look, I'm doing this to get that number down. I do think that Aliskerov's got good enough takedown defense to keep the fight on the feet, and I believe he's the better striker. I think he has more power. I mean, look, Muniz is showing us he's world-class when it comes to jiu-jitsu. I did not think he won that fight against the Iron Turtle. I think that was a little of a robbery there. But, coming off an injury, Aliskerov, I think this line is very, very wide, especially with Muniz if he is able to get the fight to the floor. On top, can hold position. But getting a minus 550 down to a minus 105, I think Aliskerov wins this fight. Wouldn't be shocked if this one went all 3 rounds, as I do think Muniz is very durable on the feet. But we're going to go with Aliskerov at over 1.5. Really like this play a lot.
Okay, so there's your first best bet there on this outside of the main and co-main. Let's stay in the middleweight division. Michel Pereira taking on Abus Magomedov. Pereira only a minus 140 favorite here, so a pretty competitive fight, and you like Pereira at that line.
I'm a big Pereira fan. I think this guy has all the skills and talent in the world to get to the top. But what we saw against Fluffy Hernandez is what we see when Fluffy Hernandez fights everyone, right? He's able to absorb the power, overcome adversity early when Pereira did drop him, and then he ran out of gas, and that's what Fluffy does to people. Abus Magomedov, when he first came into the UFC, he won very quickly, but then we saw against Strickland, we saw what happens. If he doesn't finish quick, he gets gas. Against Bruno Ferreira, he caught a sub later on, but he was still starting to get tired here. He is not someone that pushes the pace. On the feet, Pereira's the better fighter, better striker, carries more power. As long as he stays off his back, he wins. Give me Pereira at minus 140. Let's go.
All right. Nice breakdown there of the 185-pound fight. Let's move to the lightweight division where you got to play on Evan Elder, who came into the UFC, lost his first 2, but now he's on a 2-fight win streak, and he is a minus 195 favorite here against Gage Young. What do you got?
Yeah, look, Gage Young is a very tough, resilient fighter. He's only been finished once in his career, but he's getting this on short notice. And I think with Elder, we've seen him get in some barn burner type of fights. Sometimes gets a little reckless, but when he gets to that controlled chaos, he does a good job at controlling. I think this clock is going to wind down. He was at minus 195. I wouldn't bet him straight. To me, that's too high a price for someone who's still young in their UFC career. But to get that number down a little bit further, playable, over 1.5, I do like it there. I think this fight looks like, look, if you look at the odds, it's a minus 110 for Elder to win by decision. That should tell you something there. Elder and over 1.5 is where I'm going to go with him here.
Okay, and following that week off, we got one more best bet for you, and we go to the bantamweight division in a fight between Malcolm Wellmaker and Cameron Simon. Again, very tight odds on this one. Who do you like?
Yeah, look, I usually don't love to jump into the water with someone making their debut off the Contender Series, but there's 2 factors here. One, Wellmaker's got all the skills to be a real deal blue chip prospect, and Cameron Simon's coming off of back-to-back losses, getting flattened by Peyton Talbot in a very similar situation here. Wellmaker's got good, this is a very good number for him. I thought this was going to be a little bit higher. Simon's still very good. I wouldn't count him out, but at minus 120, I think Wellmaker is going to make himself look like a minus 180 to minus 200 here. I think we're getting value. I think he gets it done. And keep an eye on this kid. I think he's got a very high ceiling.
You know what? I think I can tell that we've had a week off because those were very in-depth, very smart breakdowns of all of those fights by our guy, Ian Parker. I really like the premium play. Machado Garry, Prates, over 2.5. In my opinion, I might even take a look at the over 4.5. This fight to go all the way the distance, even drop those odds a little bit higher, because I do think this is a fight that's going to play out a little slow, pretty tactical. And then you got your 4 best bets from Ian. Alaskarov with a comeback, his first appearance since the Robert Whittaker loss. Michel Pereira, we have loved him on the show before. We're taking him for 1 unit. Elder and Wellmaker close us out with the best bets. If you throw them into a 5-leg parlay, you get a plus 1,365 on that. But you don't have to throw them in a parlay, because we've got a parlay for you. The first one is the long shot parlay for this UFC Fight Night in Kansas City. Ian?
Well, we hit one of these a few cards ago, so it would be great to do it again. Let's start off with Matt Danger Schnell, coming off a very short retirement. It's either him by knockout or Flick by sub. I'm going to go with Schnell by knockout. Let's go with Damon Blackshear over Alatang by sub. And last but not least, Chris Gutierrez doing what he does. If he wins, it's by decision. So Schnell knockout, Blackshear sub, Gutierrez decision. Let's go.
All right, so 11-1 odds there on our long shot parlay. How about Parker's parlay for Saturday?
A bit chalky, but we did hit this the last 2 weeks. I want to go 3 in a row. Blackshear, I think, has no problem getting it done here. I really like this kid, man. He's really solid. Getting a fight against Alatang, I think he gets it done. Anthony and Zhang, under 2.5 rounds. Randy Brown, this has to be the coming out party. He's fighting a very durable Nick Dalby. Dalby at age 40. Brown coming off a nice win. I think he gets it done. And last but not least, back to the Schnell Flick fight. Under 2.5 rounds at plus 181. Let's do it.
Let's do it indeed. We got the Parker's parlay, long shot parlay. No props for you, but I'm sure Ian will make that up to you at some point. He loves to throw those props in. Just none this week, but you got your best bets. The main event, co-main event, a little bit of analysis on both of those. It's going to be a fun card. It's at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, ESPN 2 and ESPN Plus. Thank you so much for joining us on UFC Best Bets. We'll be right back here next week. We got a card in Des Moines, Iowa. The UFC Fight Nights are back on the road. I'm here for it. We'll talk about that one next week. Until then, enjoy your weekend. Take care.